G'day, welcome back. This is the number 19 series, and we are now looking at the second video in this series on number 19. The last video we had a look at the first revelation, chapter 96. In this video we're going to look at the last revealed chapter, chapter 110. Again, it's a very basic series where the maths and the SQL are not very heavy, so that's why it's called level 102. When we get deeper into more heavier and complex stuff, the numbers will start to grow. So stay with me. Let's see how we go. Let's dig right into it. So the chapter in question here, under the subject and scrutiny, is chapter 110, An-Nasr, the help. 110 obviously sits fifth from the end of the Quran. It is not the last chapter in the book form. This is the book form and the revelation chronology order are different. You can do your own research on that, but that's just the way historically and in terms of tradition, that's how it's been recorded. So in terms of SQL, SQL is basically structured query language. It's basically a computer language in a way to interrogate databases. And my approach here, like I said in the last video, is very much about facts and figures and using technology, using the tools at our hands to verify some of the claims people are making. So no smoke and mirrors. Absolutely, I wouldn't want anyone to fool me. I'm not going to be doing that to anybody else. So this is going to be a very short video compared to the last one. Only 2 claims are made in the book, and I'll make a reference to the book a little bit later. On the number 19, there's only 2 claims in the last chapter revealed. And if while I'm doing my research and doing this analysis, if any bonus patterns jump up and scream at us, I'll make a reference to it. Now, in terms of the just knowing what I'm going to do here, it'll be really useful if you look at my demo SQL demo video, which basically shows the setup of how I set up the Quran database in terms of its entity relationship diagram, how I've modeled it based on a book, and having a book having chapters and words are very similar to any other database system you'll see out there. Now, what are the claims and where am I taking the claims from? So this is the book in question. It's by Dr. Rashad Khalifa. The book is called Quran, Visual Presentation of the Miracle. He's a PhD from Arizona, USA. And at the back of his book, he makes this claim: presenting examinable, verifiable, and utterly irrefutable evidence that Quran is God's message to the world. Again, apologies for that. Verifiable and utterly irrefutable evidence. Okay, so here's the 2 claims that he has in regards to chapter 110, the last revealed chapter. The last Quranic chapter revealed consists of 19 words. Okay, the entire chapter is 19 words. Verse 1 of this chapter consists of 19 characters or letters or alphabets, right? The 2 claims. I'll put a little question mark on any bonus things that I find, if I do find them. Right, so let's get to the demo, and what we'll do is I'll switch over to SQL. If you haven't seen my database setup video, please go to my channel and watch that database setup, so it'll explain a lot more. And last revealed chapter is 110. Let's go to SQL. So here we are. So this is my, I'm showing you my database diagram of how I've set up the data model. So there's a table called chapters. Chapter has many verses, and a chapter is revealed in a city. So there's a relationship there. I've got these character tables, which is basically the Hijayi alphabets characters in there. And I have a couple of aggregate tables. These contain information about which chapter, which verse, and which character was used, and how many of them. And I've got this chart count reference table, which is more about positional stuff, about every character that is there. I can tell you exactly which position it is from the forward, back Quran, and within the chapter and within the verse as well. So all the positional stuff regarding characters. Then I've got the keyword and keyword count. Again, very similar aggregate function in terms of, but more about words. So this is just a 2-second demo of what the database model looks like. What we'll do next is I'm going to open up a couple of queries and we'll run through them. Like, bear with me, it's not going to be complex at all. Okay, now SQL is very simple. I've got a bunch of statements here. Like I explained in the last video, it's about using natural language, that it turns something into a bit of what computers can understand. So if you look at my video, I talk about the whole Siri example, but I will explain as simply as I possibly can. So we're looking at chapter 110. This is our comments up the top here. Let's just have a quick look at what I call the metadata. It's really the chapters table. Okay, so you can see one row return because that's we're interrogating and saying in our query. Let's look at chapter 110, and you can see all this information. It's Arabic name. I've got an Arabic field in there, Revelation city, and that has a Bismillah and all that. Okay, so that's the metadata of the chapters table. And if I just select on the verse table now, right, and everything bar the verse 0, which is the Bismillah, you can see that it actually is one of the very shortest chapters in the Quran. It has only 3 verses. Okay, so this is chapter 110. When comes the help of Allah, this is the translation that I've used, and I've used Dr. Yusuf Ali's translation, but translations are just there for reference. I'm more interested in the actual Arabic text and its English transliteration. There's obviously some numbers here that are referencing some of the different sounds, but as long as I have a one-to-one reference between the two, I've got my model pretty clean. And if you want to know more about it, please look at the database setup. Now, let's go to the first set of queries. So in this one, what we'll do is we're going to find out if the last Quranic revelation consists of 19 words. Is it true or not? Okay, a little bit of spiel here. 19 is obviously, I'll do a whole piece on 19. Why 19 is the base, one of the base numbers in the Quran. Obviously, is what people are testing to. It is an odd number, so it's unique in mathematics. It's also the 7th prime, and also 19 and 7 are special numbers in the Quran because of the fact that it's a prime. It's not divisible by anything but by itself, and there's other logic to it. Obviously 114 is also a base number in the Quran, which is the number of chapters, but 114 is also divisible by 19 exactly. Now, the claim made by Dr. Rashad Khalifa is in this book, Visual Presentation, which I showed you before. And we're going to look at the physical fact 8, as he calls it in his book, page number 20, which is really about that the last Quranic revelation chapter contains 19 words. Okay, so the query looks very simple. I'm doing a select on the chapters table, and I'm limiting it to chapter number 110, and I've got a word count table, a word count field in there as an aggregate running. You have to trust me on that, but I'll explain a little bit later other ways to verify this. Okay, you can see straight away it is true based on my aggregate field that the chapter 110 does contain 19 words. What we'll do next is another way to start to gain your confidence. You probably see a cadence here that I use different tables to prove the same thing. So this time we're going to review the claim using the aggregate stored in the verses table. So there should have been 3 verses for this. Let's run that. So you can see that I'm doing a sum of word count. So all of the word count for every verse, sum it all up. And in fact, it's not a lot of verses, only 3. You can see that we return a field called word count, which is 19, proving that. Of course, there's a reason why I don't include the verse 0, which is that silent Bismillah in front of almost every chapter in the Quran, bar chapter 9. Okay, so let's do another one where I actually use some user-defined functions, which I've written basically, and this one is counting the Arabic words given in Arabic text. And another one, just to be sure, we are counting the English words, transliterated words in the equivalent English field in the database, in that verses table. Again, limiting it to chapter number 110, An-Nasr, and I'm grouping it by chapter number. So we should be getting 19 if everything goes well. There we go. So chapter 110. An-Nasr does actually have 19 words, and I've obviously done a word count of the English words just as a cross check, and you can see that it is true. And I'll do another way, which just so that you can see what I'm doing here. Run it first and I'll show you what I'm doing. So you can see that I'm actually now displaying each of the rows, only 3 verses, so it's nice and easy. And that's where the 19 comes from. You got 7 in the last verse, 7 in that one, 14 plus 5, 19. So that clearly shows you that in terms of gaining confidence in the data, that it is in fact is 19. I think to be sure again, I have done that, which is this time on a word count table. So this is that crawl function that I have that runs and populates, gets every word out of the database and stores in the word count table. So and against every chapter and verse. So you can see I'm saying, can you count the number of times this words are there? And I'm also doing a div over here by 19.0 to show you that it's not going to be a big number. 19 by 19 should be 1. But sometimes there's multiples of 19, so we want to prove that it is a whole number to prove it's a multiple. And I'm doing this time on the word count table. I'm limiting it to chapter number 110, and of course I'm excluding, like every time else, the verse 0. Okay, bang again. So what we expected is what we got. And I don't know what I've done here, but one more time, I guess. Let's verify the claim using the word aggregate table. Okay, so this is a little bit more explanation on the same query. So copy and paste. Okay, cool. So that is done. Now let's go and have a look at the second claim, which, if you can read up the top here, says the last Quranic chapter revealed, verse 1 of that consists of 19 characters. So last time we had a look at the entire chapter and 19 words. This time the claim is in his book, page 21, physical fact number 9, that the first verse is 19 characters. Okay, so what we'll do is a number of different queries. So first of all, I'm going to run a query on the verse table and show you that my field that I use there of character count, sum up all the verses for sum up only verse number 1. Remember, this time it's about the first verse. So verse number 1, let's see how many characters it's got. Run that query and we get 19. Okay, happy going so far. Just to prove the point that I'm going to actually now run a user-defined function, which is calculating length given an Arabic text, and another one for English. Let's run that on chapter 110, verse 1. We're checking if it actually returns 19 characters. And again, both my Arabic and my English letter count is 19. And one more time, just to be sure. And this time I'm actually presenting the rows so you can see that that is the first verse there. This is the thing in question, that the first verse has 19. We're not looking at the other 2 verses at the moment, but that's just to show you. I've got other things called geometrical value and other calculations, but that will be subject of later videos. But for now, it actually is confirmed multiple ways that that's the case. I'm doing it one more time on the char count table this time. I'll have that char count table, which is a counter of all the char characters in the Quran, character by character, which verse, which chapter it is appearing in. So the alif or the a appears where and which chapter and which position those tables are there. I'm going to use that particular table. I call it the crawl char table. But we'll run it on that as well to be sure that the count of the English characters, and in this case I've just used English, but to show you that the number of characters is exactly 19, and it is obviously clearly divisible by 19. So that's it, done. What we'll do is switch back and wrap up with the slides. What did we do? So in wrapping up, we went through and looked at 2 claims. I did have a claim that was a bonus claim, which I haven't shown you. Let's go to it and let's run that through as well. So in this case, I have done what's called a geometrical value. You can look and research on gematria. It's basically the way the Hebrew, Arabic, and other Middle Eastern languages were used. Numbers were represented with letters, and the other way around. Letters are used to represent numbers that have a value and a weight, and the gematria of each of those characters I have calculated, and I've had a go at dividing by 19 and also by 7, which are the 2 sort of power numbers. And what I found was that actually it is divisible by 7. So whatever the significance for that is, I don't know, but it wasn't divisible by 19, but that was an additional bonus finding that I... Okay, so here we are. So what do we do? This is a wrap-up of what we found in our various queries that we ran on the last Revelation chapter, chapter 110, An-Nasr. Did we verify the 2 claims? And did we debunk it? Did we fail it? Those are physical facts 8 and 9 in the book. And was there a bonus pattern? So what we found was that yes, the last Quranic revelation did consist of 19 words. That was the first check we did. And we had to look at the first verse, and we found that it actually had 19 letters. Multiple of 19. 19 obviously is divisible by itself. And also we had a look at a bonus check on gematria, which is the sum of all values of the Arabic letters used in that, and it was actually found to be divisible by 7, another power number, prime, but wasn't divisible by 19. That was just something I wanted to just have a fling at. Okay, in conclusion, both claims have been verified for chapter 110 An-Nasr, and we get a bonus claim as well. What's next? So next video is going to be a little bit more exciting. I think there's a really interesting sort of pattern developing here with video 103, a number 19 series, and it's about the first, second, and third revelation. So there were these chunks of revelation. The first revelation being Iqra, and there's another one, and then the third revelation. Today we looked at the last revelation. So the first, second, and third, the claim made, and I'll just give you a quick preview. The first revelation set had 19 words. The second had 38, which is interestingly 19 multiplied by 2. Watch the pattern here. The third revelation set had 57 words, and it's 19 by 3. This is the claim. Quite amazing, I think. So that will be the next video. And again, if you haven't seen my database setup video, please go and have a look at video 000 on my channel, and it'll show you everything about how I've set up the database from the raw data, how I created the database, and a little bit about the entity relationship diagram. Now, question and answers. Well, please, I hope and request you to, if you like what you've seen and you'd like me to keep going and do a little bit more. I'm hoping to get a little bit more from beginning level to a little bit more intermediate than advanced, but it's always better to walk than to run. We'll do the crawl, walk, and run exercise. Please subscribe to my channel and give it a thumbs up if you like what you've seen today. It gives me confidence and makes me keep going and do more for you. If there's any feedback you want to give me, anything you are interested in, any issues that I had in the video, for example, sure, feel free to give me a comment. Please, as always, we're all here to learn, and keep everything respectful and considerate for others as well. My channel is I Reason, Therefore I Am. And that's all for today. Peace be unto you. See you next time.